Uh, Jen, thank you. So the two
You're welcome.
questions are you okay with us sharing this recording of your story publicly?
Yes,
And then can you or anyone you may mention face legal prosecution or get into trouble for anything that you share in your story?
not to my knowledge.
Perfect. That's what I say too. I don't think so. I hope not. So, okay, the floor is yours. I'm going to mute myself and identify however you want. Take it away.
Perfect. Well, my name is Jennifer and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is August 26th of 2019. And I came into these rooms, uh, much like everybody else, battered and broken, I didn't start off my life thinking I would be an alcoholic or an addict or have an addiction to anything. I thought life was just going to be great. When I was a child, I lived with a mom and a dad and a sister, and we lived in a beautiful house and had this beautiful life. And then one day it came crashing down. When I was in third grade, I remember sitting at the front door in front of my dad, crying and begging him not to leave. And he left. And I think that was the first time in my life where I was shown how disposable I was. At least that's what I thought. I thought that this man leaving my life, my hero, my family provider, I thought that he was my everything. And for him to walk out that door showed me and proved to me that I was worth nothing. And I carried that throughout my life. And I think that's what I used to propel myself into a life where I just wanted attention and I wanted love. And I think that was the first step for me and my addictions. I fell apart after that he left, right? I know that for me, losing the one person I thought was in my corner and being left with my mom, who I couldn't relate to and was really never around, and my sister, who didn't seem as affected as I was, all of these things played a big part in the person that I became. So he left when I was in third grade, and by the time I was 11, I was smoking cigarettes and huffing Freon from outside of the air conditioning units, because someone said, hey, this makes this really cool noise and you feel different. And you didn't have to tell me twice. You could have said, put your mouth on the, exhaust pipe of a car. If it's going to get my head to be different, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And it started off from there. As crazy as it sounds, I just didn't think at the time, right, that me choosing to smoke cigarettes or me choosing to huff on Freon was going to lead to the life that I ended up living. I started smoking weed a little bit after, and these things just were things that people in my neighborhood were doing. And because they were doing it, I needed to do it too, because I wanted to be included. I think the theme for my life was just wanting to feel like I was a part of, and I hear that a lot in these rooms. And it's sad to think that I didn't feel like I was ever going to be a part of anything. I always felt like I was different, and I always felt like I needed to make sure that everybody in my life wanted me there. And I turned into a chameleon really fast. So at 13 years old, I'm drinking and I'm smoking weed, and I'm not doing the Freon anymore because like that's lame, right? After 11 years old, you shouldn't do that shit anymore. But I started doing other things, right? I started dressing a little different. I started wanting the attention of boys. I started really reaching out of my shell, is what I call it, and try to be as unique as possible so that I could get the attention from everybody that I wanted. And this chameleon formed, right? And I became whatever I thought you needed from me so that you would like me and accept me. And what that looked like for me at the age of 13 was starting to hang out with the wrong crowd. And they were the right crowd for me at the time, right? We all choose those really cool friends that are down to do whatever. Like they're down to do whatever. And it sounds cool at the time. So I was down to do whatever. So at the age of 14, on December 24th, I bought my first sack of meth with my Christmas money. So, that was a fat sack. I had no idea what I was doing. And we did the whole thing, me and 4 other girls. And we snorted it, and we played games, and we colored, and we were up for 3 days, and we smoked cigarettes, and we had a great time. And it was this really fun thing. And this group of girls really felt like my family. We loved each other. It was great. That lasted like a cool 6 months, right? Because I don't know about you, but meth took me out real fast. And I just rode the wave. And in that time, I had this really cool experience of losing my virginity to rape. And it happened at one of my guy friends' houses, and I was drugged, which is really crazy to me because I love drugs and I had no idea. And I woke up in this situation where I'd lost my virginity and didn't really have an idea of what had happened. I just knew I was sore and I was wearing some guy's pants, and he drove me home and gave me a hug and dropped me off. And about 3 weeks later, I started feeling weird. And 4 weeks later, I was rushed to the emergency room because I had gotten pregnant in my fallopian tube and had what's called an ectopic pregnancy and faced an emergency surgery where I was told I would never have kids. And through this time, my drug use got a little bit more intense because here I am having to explain to my parents why I'm no longer a virgin. Here I am having to figure out, well, what the hell happened because I can't remember. And it was scary. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I turned to drug use, and I kept drinking and I kept doing meth, and slowly but surely it went from having a good party time to needing it as a part of my life. I didn't know how to function on a daily basis without having that drug in my system. I didn't know how to function at school without knowing I had a sack to go home to or a sack I could use while I was in the bathroom. And this continued and progressed, and my life just circled around my drug use. And I did everything that I could to kind of forget the fact that I wasn't going to be able to have kids, forget the fact that I have no idea how I had sex for the first time. Like all of these things, I just wanted to suppress and tuck down deep inside of me. By the time I was 19 years old, I was freely giving my body to anybody that would have it because that meant that I was loved, right? And it was my choice to make, because since I couldn't remember the first time, I would make sure I made the choice every time after that to give my body to a man and have it be my choice. And I used that as a way to get drugs. I never sold myself for money, but I definitely sold myself for drugs. And that realization came to me after about a year of sobriety, that that's what I was doing, because I really just thought it was me making the choice to have sex and a connection, and really the choice was to get me high. And I did whatever I needed to do to get mine, right? I did whatever I needed to do to make sure that I got my drugs, and I did them, and it didn't matter who I was hurting or what I was doing. And during that time, I took this really cool hostage and had this really amazing experience where I got sick when I was smoking meth, and I was like, what the hell's happening? And so I took myself to the hospital. I peed on a stick and I was pregnant. So I went from not being able to have children, being a full-blown meth addict, to boom, you're pregnant. And at that time, I just couldn't understand what was happening, right? I was like, this is a sick joke, God. Like, it's really not funny. Like, if you need me to slow down, like, you could have arrested me. It's fine. I was told by the doctor that if I stopped my drug use abruptly, that I would have a miscarriage. So in my addict mind, that gave me the go ahead to slowly wean off of meth. And slowly weaning off of meth during that pregnancy, I found out when I was probably about 4 weeks along. It took me until I was at the end of my 5th month to stop smoking meth, even though it made me sick and it hurt to smoke, and my body rejected every ounce of it. I could not stop. Knowing I was pregnant with a child I should have never had, knowing that I could be damaging her inside of me, but because I don't have a defense against it, I had no idea what I was doing and I couldn't stop. And that weaning off literally was still smoking so much a day that my life was consumed by it. And I don't even know how I stopped when I was at the end of 5 months, but I did when I had my daughter. And I stopped smoking at about when she was 3 months old, right? I was working at Starbucks 24 hours a day, Starbucks, and I was working the night shift, taking care of her during the day. And I was tired as shit. And I was like, you know what? I know what's going to help. I'm going to go ahead and just get a sack. I'll be able to stay up through this shift. I need to make this money. I got to support her. And not even 3 weeks later, I was held up at gunpoint by a girl that I thought was my friend, by my best friend at the time and her boyfriend. And my daughter was in the next room crying when these people went through my parents' house and stole from them and threatened my life. while my daughter was in the next room. And the next day, her father came and picked her up, and I had to go to rehab for my first time. And I went to an inpatient treatment center out in the desert where I did 60 days of just straight program and did all these steps that I had no idea what they were, and I didn't really want to quit, and someone was shoving them down my throat so quickly, and all of a sudden I went from like feeling like shit to having to tell people I'm sorry to like understanding who I am and like not wanting any of it. Later realized that I copped a resentment towards a 12-step program, and that sort of kept me out of any program since then. Like, I really felt like these people were attacking me. How dare you try to tell me about myself? Excuse me. Like, I don't need none of this. My life's not that bad. Yeah, I get high, yeah, I can't stop. I had a kid, whatever. Things are whatever. I'm fine. It's okay. And I really thought that I was gonna be able to live life out of a treatment center on my own terms. Well, let me just tell you how cool that works. At about 90 days, I lost the place that I was living and had to move in with a couple of girls that I didn't really know that well. And their coping mechanism was cocaine. So that became my coping mechanism as well. So I just started doing cocaine. And if you're an addict like I'm an addict, cocaine doesn't hit like meth. So guess what I did a few weeks later? I got some meth. I found me a dealer, and I became his girlfriend, and boom, I was off and running. And I really just rode that train for as long as I could. I gave up almost all of my rights to my daughter, thinking that that was the best thing for her because I knew I couldn't stop. And in my head, how I played it out to myself was, God, you're an addict. You know that you can't stop. The best thing for her is to give her up. And in reality, it was because I needed to get high without her there, right? Because as an addict, I cannot tell myself to stop. I do not know how. I don't have the ability to put it away and never touch it again. And I didn't know that at the time. And I convinced myself that I was making the right decision so that I wouldn't feel guilty about the decision I was making. And thank God her father was around to take care of her, right? The hostage that I took when I got pregnant with her loved her enough in spite of his hatred for me to be able to take care of her. And he did. I slowly but surely just kept getting worse. I ended up not being with that guy anymore after he abused me enough to make me want to leave. And I started hanging out with a rougher crowd. And my addiction took me to a place that I never thought I would revisit. And that was a place where I became the girlfriend of my rapist. And I dated my rapist, and I was okay with it because I was getting as high as I wanted to get. And what I needed, my needs were getting met regardless of what it felt like inside me and what kind of flashbacks would happen when we would be intimate and the things that would go through my mind. And that relationship took me to a house one evening where we were just supposed to be having a barbecue. And all of a sudden, there was people doing a home invasion on us. And I ran upstairs with everybody that was with us, and I put them in the bedroom, and we laid on the bed, and I covered them up with a blanket. And I told them, just close your eyes and cover your ears. You don't want to hear any of this, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And what ended up happening in the same bedroom we were in was that I got to watch my boyfriend get shot or stabbed in the face. I still don't really know which one. And I got to witness someone to get their life taken from them. And after driving my boyfriend to the hospital and dropping him off for medical care and hiding at my friend's house, we were detained by the police and questioned. And after being released from the police station, I thought everything was going to be okay. And then everything wasn't okay. Everything was rough. I could have died and I didn't even think twice about it. I just wanted to get high. I watched someone lose their life and I didn't think twice about it because I just wanted to get high. That landed me in violation of my felony probation on 12 counts, which landed me in jail. And on December 24th of 2007, I called my daughter from jail, and for the first time ever from her mouth, I heard her say mama, and my insides broke. Here I was sitting in jail on her birthday, and she I didn't say anything first, and she just said, "Mama." And how selfish do you have to be to have this young, beautiful gift, this miracle given to you, and that you take it for granted? And I couldn't understand then what was happening, but after a little bit of work, I understood that this was my first spiritual experience. This was where my higher power came in and said, "Yo, hey, guess what? You are not doing what you need to be doing, and I know you don't know how to stop, but let me break your heart. Let me break it sufficiently enough for you to be desperate enough to stop what you're doing." And I could say that at this time I completely stopped wanting to do meth. I no longer had the desire, and what I did was I got into a program inside of jail. And for the 265 days that I was incarcerated, I was going to NA meetings and AA meetings that they brought inside. I was going to church and in my Bible, and reaching out to a God that I never thought I wanted, and learning a little bit about myself. And I would love to say that I've been sober since 2007, right? I would love to say that my clean date was December 12th, 2007, when I got locked up. But guess what? It wasn't, because I, after getting out and being dry for 6 years, thought that it would be okay for me to drink because it's not methamphetamines. And I think that it gets lost in translation sometimes, just because I'm not doing the drug of my drug of choice, right? My drug of choice is what I used to say. That everything was okay, because as long as I'm not smoking meth, I'm not going to rob people. As long as I'm not smoking meth, I'm not going to be dating my rapist. As long as I'm not doing this one drug, my life is fine. And when it first started out, when my drinking first started, it was like normal drinking, like what I thought normal drinking was, which was going out, having like 8 to 10 drinks and blacking out. That's normal. That's how we all drink, right? It's not. Just FYI, that's not how you drink, I guess. I don't know. I'm not normal, so I can't relate to that kind of story. But for me, that was normal drinking. And it went from being fun and exciting and enjoying it, like, much like my meth use did, to being a necessity in my life. So much so that I would plan for the days that I didn't have my children. Oh, P.S. I have a son. He was born 4 years after my daughter was. So sometimes doctors are really, really wrong. I have 2 little miracles, and they're in my life today. And thank God that they are, because they help me see myself more often than if I was just alone. So I don't know, guys. Like I feel like I can relate to a lot of people I've heard in the rooms, and I can continue to tell you my what happened story. And I think I told you like the big highlights and everything, but I think that the biggest thing is that no matter how much I wanted to stop, I couldn't. No matter how much I wanted to put it down and not choose that over everything in my life, I couldn't. I had no ability to stop once I put anything into my body. Anything like meth, ecstasy, acid, alcohol, like it didn't matter. You could have said that this was just going to make me get a little fucked up, and I would have said, well, let's take 17 of them, because that was normal for me. And I became consumed to the point where everything else in my life just faded away. And all I can think about was, God, how am I going to go get drunk this weekend? Who do I need to call so we can drink today on a Tuesday? Do I need to really go to work on time tomorrow? Or can I call in a little bit late because my hangover is probably going to be a bit rough? And that's how I lived my life. And I convinced myself, because it wasn't methamphetamines, everything was okay, right? Until my last drunk. I went out at 4:30 to a brunch in LA. We started in one end of LA. And by the time we got to where the brunch was, I had already had, like a good portion of a vodka bottle. By the time we got inside of the brunch, I remember having a drink with a couple of my friends. And by 5 o'clock, I'm assuming, because that's when the last picture was taken, I was blackout drunk. And I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning in a stranger's hotel room, in a bed with people I didn't know, in a hotel I didn't know I was in an area I had no idea what was going on, and this was the story of my life, is making the decisions where I would get blackout drunk, and then I would wake up in a situation where I was like, oh fuck. I went into the bathroom and looked at myself and realized that I had white powder all over my face, which means I did some drug that I can't remember. and somehow made it to my house and forgot that I had to work that day. Had to call and lie to my boss, who I just got this job from. It was going to be my first day, right? This dream job that I'd been planning to get. And I fucked it off because I wanted to go just have a good time with my friends. And I got blackout drunk and stranded in LA. And this guy that works with me on my other job had called and asked for my assistance. And I walked over to him and he asked me, well, hey, why aren't you at your other job? You started work today. And as much as I didn't want to do it, something took control of me and told this guy, you know what? I got blackout drunk last night. I woke up in LA this morning and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. I don't want to do this anymore, but I don't know how to stop. And this man told me, I've got a meeting that you can go to. And within 15 minutes, he sent me at least 3 addresses and times for meetings that were occurring the same day. And I showed up to this meeting in like the grossest pajama pants you've ever seen, this nasty sweatshirt. My hair was all matted. I was feeling like ass because hello, I got blackout drunk the day before. So it's called a hangover. It looks really beautiful on me. And I walked into this meeting and these women were like pantsuits and dresses and they looked put together. And I walked in just feeling it like, damn it, I don't belong here. Like, are you sure I'm in the right place? Like you guys are alcoholics? I don't believe it. And you know what happened for the first time ever is that I was embraced by women who I didn't know. And they hugged me and they told me, welcome. I felt more loved in that moment with these beautiful women and their amazing clothes, with me looking the worst that I've looked in a long time and feeling the lowest that I felt about myself. I felt more love in that moment and more like I belonged in that one moment than I had in the past 16 years. And you know what I did is I kept coming back and I kept staying. And for quite some time, it took me a little bit to get a sponsor, and this beautiful lady who saw how sick I was still, she said, hey, I could be your temporary sponsor. And that woman saved my life. She gave me the best piece of advice that I ever heard, because I went to a Friday night meeting, dressed up, makeup done, hair done, and I promise you I can clean up really nicely. And I really felt myself that night. And she saw that I dressed up and looked nice. And I had made a comment about going out after the meeting. And she said, yeah, we're going to go out to Denny's after the meeting. And I heard that you can't say no to your sponsor. So I was like, yeah, we'll go to Denny's after the meeting. And you know what she said to me when we got to Denny's? She said, we talked for a little bit and I was like, well, I'm going to go. And she's like, yeah, I'm just going to give you, I'm just going to suggest something to you. And I said, okay. And she's like, why don't you go home and wash the pretty off your face? And damn, I was like, this bitch. But guess what I did? I went home and I washed the pretty off my face and I put my head on the pillow and I went to sleep and I woke up sober the next day. And that was like the second epiphany that I had, like, damn, it was going to be that easy after a decision I made to no longer drink or do drugs. It was going to be that easy for me and I was just going to do it. And I continued to go to meetings, and then I continued to be in the work, and I got into the Big Books, Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program, right? And I did these 12 steps and I learned how to let go and understand that I'm powerless. And I learned that I was an alcoholic at the center of my being. I have no control over anything that I put into my body, because after the first one, I just want more and more and more, and I don't know how to stop. And it took me, going through those steps twice and really seeing who I was and continually wanting to work on myself for me to understand who I am today. And it's not all peaches and cream. I'm not over here excited about life all the time. I face depressive episodes. I have social anxiety disorder. My disease continues to lie to me about who I am and how I present myself. And for a long time, I really, really wanted to impress you, any of you. I wanted you to want me so that I could want myself. I wanted you to love me so that I could love myself. And this program and this life of sobriety and recovery has afforded me the ability to look in the mirror and love who I see today. I can look in the mirror without crying and hating who she is staring back at me. And I can look in the mirror and say, God, girl, look at what your higher power has given you. Look at how you have allowed yourself to let go and let your higher power be in your life, And I continue to be of service, and I continue to roll with the people in this program that I'm in, and it's blessed my life. And I could talk about the materialistic things that have been given to me, right? The things that I've worked for, but in the reality, like the biggest gift that I was given was the gift of self-love, because I didn't know how to do that. And I thought that I needed to do it through everybody else. And I know today that it has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with me. And if I didn't have my recovery, I wouldn't have any of this. So thank you.